Welcome to my unique Premier League 25-26 predictions. Why it's unique? Because I decided to watch the first week of the Premier League and then see if I could actually predict where everybody's going to be finishing. Now, first of all, we've got Wolves at 20th place. They relied on a lot of Cunha's individual brilliance. He's now gone to United. They failed to replace him. That team looked very mediocre against City. I do understand that City, but at the end of the day, Wolves really would have got relegated without Cunha, and now there's no Cunha, and there's no solid replacement for him that's going to really substantially keep them up. So that's the worst team in the Premier League. 19th, Brentford. Lots of drama in Brentford. Lost their manager. Lost Mbeumo. Lost Norgard. And now they're going to be losing Wisa. They have him captive, but I believe eventually he will end up moving to Newcastle. So, will they have a Brighton-type transfer window where they end up selling all their players, like when they had Cucurella, Caicedo, and etc., all leave, and they brought cheap replacements, and then they have like the likes of Baleba. At one point they had a Stupinal, but they ended up replacing them quite well and still stayed, where they usually were, and even pushed for a European spot and even pushed in Europe. So, can Brentford actually stay up? And I believe they will not. Now, 18th place. It's going to be a team that's actually gone from the championship to the Premier League, Burnley. Burnley doesn't look impressive at all. They tried with, the signings of Kyle Walker. But when you lose your goalkeeper, you don't really replace him all that well. And unfortunately for James Trafford, he's fallen for the Pep Guardiola trick because they bought Trafford, they still have Ederson, and they're in for Donnarumma. 3 goalkeepers that would all start at Man United, by the way. Crazy how he got outplayed by Pep Guardiola. And if I was a player, I would never even trust that man ever. And he's going to say, oh yeah, it's great to have depth, like he just had that one interview. And it's like, mate, 3 goalkeepers? Calm. Now, first team to survive. It's going to be a team coming from the championship in Leeds. I saw Leeds play against Everton. They look pretty impressive. At the end of the day, yeah, they wouldn't 1-0 because of a pen, but they actually played like they belonged in the Premier League. The manager's looking great. The team's looking great. They didn't make too many moves, but they just went out and got Okafor from Milan. The team looks solid, and I think they'll have just what it takes to stay up. Now, at 16th place, we've got Sunderland, another team that isn't playing around. Now, a lot of people have Sunderland finishing a little bit higher, but my thing with Sunderland is they have a lot of transfers. Yeah, they signed like 8 players, but more than half of them, are coming from an African country. And I'm saying that because AFCON is in the middle of the Premier League. Now, you're going to be using a lot of backups, when AFCON comes. So they're going to have what it takes to stay up. They'll be, in December, they'll be fine. In December, they'll be maybe like 10th. But then they're going to drop lots of points when those players leave for international duty for that African Cup. That's my thing with the transfers. They had a great transfer window. It's just that African Cup is really going to hinder their points. But it'll be just enough to stay up, though. And Sunderland, they're not playing about this transfer window. I'll tell you that. 15th place, we are going to go with Everton. Everton, they went out and had a cheeky little transfer window, signing Barry from Villarreal, signed Grealish. I believe this Everton team can be exciting. It has the potential to be mid-table, but just staying up, I believe, for now, for Everton is just good enough. Jack Grealish, I hope he could actually pick up the form he had at Aston Villa. But at the end of the day, I'm not expecting him to be Aston Villa Jack Grealish. And even when he was Aston Villa Jack Grealish, there was literally one play away from getting relegated. Villa was when they had Jack Grealish, and they got quite lucky because if VAR would have had it correct, they would have got relegated in that goal that they scored that kept them away from relegation. But anyways, 14th place, we are going to go with Bournemouth. Bournemouth lost 3 out of 4 starting defenders last season and their goalkeeper. So, in all honesty, this is more than high. I have them this high because we really saw them against Liverpool. They haven't lost their attacking perk because they have most of their attackers from last season. They have Semenyo, they have Evan Nilsson. They've got plenty of firepower when it goes for going forward. But defensively and goalkeeper, a lot to adapt. They won't be doing anything crazy like finishing 10th or above, but they will be finished 14th after losing 3 defenders, 1 to PSG, 1 to Madrid, 1 to Liverpool. Finishing 14th, that's kind of like overachieving, But Bournemouth, we saw what they're going to be next season. Concede 4, score 2. They're going to be scoring lots of goals, but they're going to be conceding lots of goals with all those changes. Anyways, 13th place, we are going to be going with Crystal Palace. This is another team with a lot of drama, in my opinion. Crystal Palace possibly might be losing Eze or Guehi. Now, the thing about Crystal Palace is I think they actually have quite a bit of depth because Adam Warden, I don't believe he's going to be leaving. I don't trust the transfer news. I think he's going to stay another season, and it would make sense for Adam Warden and Eze and Guehi to stay next season because this team was a part of that, FA Cup run. And this Crystal Palace team, I believe, could make a run in the Conference League. Unfortunately, they're not in the Europa League because of BS, I won't lie. But look at the Declan Rice situation with West Ham. He stayed another year, won the Conference League, and then he left for $100 million. Those three players must be looking at themselves thinking, should I make the move this summer or next summer? And genuinely, there's been so much movement. I would stay at Palace for another season. Hopefully, you make a run in the Conference League. If you win it, I'm telling you, the prices on the transfer fees are going to skyrocket. The wages are going to skyrocket where it is right now because winning something like that for a club like Crystal Palace or West Ham means the world. Now, the team above Crystal Palace is actually West Ham. West Ham is funky right now with the transfers. Enzo Alvarez possibly going to Turkey. You've got Paqueta, who they want to keep, but he wants to leave. There's tons of movement there, but Graham Potter, I believe, he's done great work with Brighton. You're at a similar club as Brighton, and I think he has what it takes to actually, keep West Ham afloat. They're not going to have too much of a meltdown where they're finishing, at 17th or 16th or even relegation. But they definitely will have a significant drop-off where they've been in the past few years, where they were actually competing for European spots and even winning European competitions, like I just mentioned. Now, at 11th place, we are going to be going with Brighton. Brighton is actually they're going to keep Baleba, I think. You've overpriced everyone, even Man United of all teams. But that's a significant piece right there because I don't think selling Baleba now in the transfer window is going to give them enough time to go out and get a replacement. Brighton is amazing at getting cheap replacements after selling people for $100 million, but they want more than $100 million this time. They want 120, 130 for Baleba. And for Man United's sake, that's not really worth it. I'd rather go out and spend that same amount of money on Donnarumma and Adam Warden any day of the week before I go out and give 120 million for Baleba, because at the end of the day, Baleba had one great year. So that's where I'm like, you know what, lads, pipe down over there. So they're gonna have a significantly similar squad as last year. Really, the only significant loss was Joao Pedro, but Brighton always seems to be able to get over transfers like that. Now, the next team I've got is Fulham. Fulham looks decent. They've got pretty good players like Raul Jimenez, who's having a really great season. Smith Rowe, he's a significant piece. You have great pieces, a good manager. It's always complicated to go to Fulham. So Fulham's home, great home record is really what keeps them in the mid-table, and they're going to have a decent little season here, finishing 10th place. Not good enough to really break apart any of the teams above them, because these 10 teams, I believe, are clear of Fulham. Genuinely, position by position, manager, everything, they're better than Fulham. Fulham has a couple holes, but we're going to keep them at 10th place. Now, from 9th to 5th is where it could go anywhere, these teams. But 9th place, I'm going to go Newcastle, because Newcastle has a mess with Isak. Still haven't got that replacement for Isak, so you don't know if Isak's going to be there next season. Is he going to sit out in a World Cup year? You have all these factors with Newcastle's attack, which is a significant, part of them winning games, is their attack. It's not them, being a defensive shutdown. Attacking wise, last season, Isak was top 3 in the Golden Boot. Losing that and not replacing it. So far, that's what it's looking like. But we'll see what happens. I'm not expecting Isak to leave Newcastle, but I'm not expecting him to play, which is crazy to say on a World Cup year. But the last time Newcastle was in the Champions League, though, remember, they suffered in the league, and that's why I have them at 9th. That's the factor why they're going to finish lowest to all these teams. 8th place, Man United, finishing 8th place. Yep, and I'm saying that because, you know what? This club has significantly dropped their standards, man. It's absolutely comedy because they lost 1-0, and they played semi-good. And now they're apparently going to be getting top 4 in Champions League football because they saw progress. It's week 1 of the Premier League and you're in 15th place and you finished last season in 15th place. I don't really know where the progress is, where it counts there. But yeah, if you could look a little bit better, a little bit more functional, I guess. Woof, yeah, progress. But anyways, 7th place. Ooh, this is where it gets tricky, man. I had an easy time putting Newcastle 9th and Man United 8th. But then 7, 6, and 5 for some reason were just so hard. It could go any other way. But at 7th place, I'm going to go Tottenham. Now, Thomas Frank, we yet to know how good he's going to be in a Champions League setting and as well in the Premier League with significant expectations because they've backed this guy. They have backed him and they might even give him Eze still. So they have given a lot of support. The team looked great for 80 minutes against PSG, but at the end of the day, these games don't end in 80 minutes. They end in 90 minutes. So that's where I'm gonna have them 7th place. They would have finished a lot higher, I believe, probably top 5, if they weren't in the Champions League. I'll say that. If they weren't in European competitions and they lost to Man United, I might have had Tottenham higher than they are right now. But anyways, at 7th place, I'm gonna go with Aston Villa. Villa's going to be in European competitions. Last season, they didn't suffer too much from it, but they did lose significant amount of players that really did push them, which is Marcus Rashford and Asensio. They're working on trying to bring Asensio back. But when it comes to attacking third, Aston Villa looks kind of plain, really. From the starters, yeah, okay, Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, yeah, it looks great. But then aside from that, last season, you had Rashford, Asensio, and Duran as like options off the bench. Now you have Illing Samuel Jr. Oof, that's a pretty bad drop off in my opinion. So really, their attacking options aren't very explosive and game changing like they used to be. That's a genuine change that's gone with this team. You got Donny and Mallon, but you've lost a lot. And you haven't really replaced when it comes to going forward, and that's not going to be significant enough depth to be able to compete in Europe and the Premier League and get Champions League, So that's why I have them at 6th place. 5th, I got Nottingham Forest. Yep, they're getting Champions League football as long as none of these win a European competition, such as the Europa League. Nottingham Forest will have Champions League football. I love what they did in the transfer window. They went out and got a young Brazilian striker. They still have Chris Wood. They still have Morgan Gibbs, which everyone thought he was going to Tottenham. They've had a great transfer window. They've kept the manager. This is an exciting project, and I think Nottingham's actually going to pull away and get Champions League football. 5th place. That'll be amazing for them. The owner, aside from the memes and the sometimes blowing up in the public eye with the frustration, this is an owner that actually cares, though. At the end of the day, that's all you really want. A guy who actually cares and invests in the club. And Nottingham Forest, used to be a team in the Championship, and now they are in European competition. Not only European competition, they are in the Europa League. They're getting closer to the glory days every single season. They are former Champions League winners. So Nottingham Forest, they're going to get Champions League football this year. It's my prediction. 5th place. 4th, Man City. Don't get fooled. It was the worst team in the Premier League in Wolves. How they did so good. Oscar Bob, though, that looks like a proper player right there. Phil Foden, I don't expect him to really come back. Yeah, but the new signings really look great. They both scored. Erling Haaland is looking still great, but defensively, once they play a proper team, I think you're gonna see their vulnerabilities. But them being in for Donnarumma is still crazy to me. Can't believe that. Trafford, man, you gotta feel betrayed, man, because now you might be the 3rd option in a World Cup year, lad. In a World Cup year, Pep Guardiola scammed you from your first World Cup. 3rd place, we're gonna go with Chelsea. Chelsea finishing above Man City. Unfortunately, Chelsea looked more solid defensively than City. I can't believe I'm saying that in the Big 25. And that's going to be the difference. I feel like attacking-wise, Chelsea don't really look on the same level, but defensively, they look a level above City. So it's really where you want to pick your poison. And I'm just going to say Maresca, he looks... I'm going off mostly the Club World Cup. You might be saying they played weak teams, but the way they really played PSG out the park impressed me, and I feel like they're going to have a way better season in the Premier League. And there's going to be some sort of improvement here in the Prem, and they're going to be finishing above Man City. That's the improvement that I'm going to be going with. And then Liverpool, and then Arsenal. Liverpool are very weak when it comes to center backs, like I'm saying. they have Van Dijk, they have Konate. You don't know yet what's gonna happen with Konate. They just signed an 18-year-old from Italy, and then they sold Kwanzaa. So it's like defensively, yeah, they just signed two new fullbacks, but center backs wise, you have a 39-year-old Van Dijk and a guy that his head is in Madrid. And when you look at Arsenal, for the first time ever, I could actually say they have a ton of depth defensively, center backs wise, because it used to be Colin Chambers, Tierney, Rob Holding, David Luiz. You know what I look at? You know what I look at now? Gabriel Saliba, arguably the best pair in the Prem. No, the best pair. Then you've got Calafiori who could play center back. You've got Kiwior who held his own against Mbappe, Vinny, and Rodrigo. They only conceded one goal, which is mostly Saliba's fault, ironically. Not only that, they went out and signed Real Madrid target Mosquera for 13 million. So you've got 5 center back options right there. So one goes down, I'm not as worried as I used to be when Rob Holding was this, the backup. So now, hopefully never happens, but let's say one of the two starters get hurt, you have a proper replacement that I actually trust now. Does Liverpool have the same? No, they don't. Fullbacks as well. You've got at least 2 guys. You even have Zinchenko still there. Zinchenko's still there, and he's like the fifth fiddle in fullbacks. Midfield wise, you actually have a ton of depth. I'm seeing Mikel Merino play 10-15 minutes, and I'm like, this guy is Premier League champion starter quality, and he's coming off the bench. And you have Norgard as well. They didn't even get a minute. That's the depth that I'm talking about. Really, it's going to come down to that number 9, Gyökeres. Are you going to be able to put the ball in the back of the net? But you know what's perfect about that situation? They're going to give him the average treatment. You're going to get this. You're going to get 10 games, 10, 15 games. They'll be patient. You're not cutting it. Kai Havertz, your week in, week out starter, and we're going to slowly integrate you in games that don't really matter, such as the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. That's how it's going to go with Gyökeres. And because Mikel Arteta has that pressure of you have to win something this season. He can get away with it possibly this one if he doesn't. But next one it's die or live. Die or live for him. But really, the striker position and the left wing position, I'm not sure about Madueke. That was crazy. Martinelli still at the football club. That's never a good thing. Never a good thing. Just saying that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment down below what do you think about my predictions. But yeah.